Not that long ago, my wife and I were on a trip for a couple of days with our four youngest kids. They were on vacation. We decided we want to go away as a family. And so we did basically a road trip. 2 nights in a hotel, out of state, a lot of driving, mostly at night. And so I didn't have all that much to look at. You know, it's kind of drab on the roads at night. You can't really enjoy the scenery. It's dark, and you just basically focus on the road and on the other drivers. And so I tried to think about what was going on around me just a little bit and made some observations that I'd love to share with you. So we all know that there are three, typically speaking, at least in most circumstances, the highways, the interstates have 3 lanes on each side. The right lane is for those who are driving pretty slow, getting on, getting off. Those in the left lane are driving a little bit faster, but also in a more predictable kind of way. And those on the left are the ones who are passing, more the Mavericks, more the Speedsters, and whatnot. And typically speaking, when a person is on the road, they assume that the safest place to hang out is on the right side, because again, that's where the slowest traffic is, and that's where you seem to have most control over what's going on. You don't have to worry about people sneaking in behind you, trying to push you forward like they do in the left lane, and so you kind of carry on your merry way. What I've actually since researched is that the right lane, compared to at least the left, is actually in many ways not as safe as the left lane. And the reason for that is because there's so much on and off traffic. There's a lot of merging, there's a lot of transition. So even though the pace may be slow, but the nature of the transition can be bumpy and challenging. On the other hand, the left lane, the risk takers, they seem to be in control. Even though they're going fast, they know exactly what they're doing. They have a strategy, and in most cases, they manage through that strategy okay. And that kind of got me thinking about the whole notion of risk. And it's interesting because we often try to stay in the proverbial right lane or in the safe lane of life. We stay in our jobs because we have them and we know what they are. And even if they're not great, and even if life could be better, and even if we don't love who we work for or what we do, but we stay with it because we want to ensure the stability that offers us. And the same thing is true in many cases with life and other decisions that we make, in relationships that we're in, or routines that we've established, that we stay with the safe route because we assume everything will just be okay, and better to live a life of okay that is stable and predictable and all of that than to take a risk and do something that'll put us completely out of our comfort zone, even if ultimately we think it could provide us with greater satisfaction, better upside, better income, you name it. Most people just won't take that risk. And so it may just be a consideration of, well, should I do the riskier thing or should I stay put? But the reality is there's actually risk in staying put. And that to me is the novel concept I want to share with you. Staying in the right lane is actually more dangerous in many ways than being in the left lane. And the reason for that is because even the right lane, whatever that is, also carries risk. We live in an age of downsizing. We live in an age of transition. Frankly, we live in an age of change. And we all know that change is a constant in our life. There's nothing we could do about it. The only thing we could do is try to think ahead, try to stay current, try to stay super sharp with our skills and have the capacity to do new things, but also, frankly, be willing to try something new. And I know that is super scary for so many of us, including myself. How do I try something new without worrying about the implications? And so obviously there's a lot to talk about on the topic, but one thing that I would share with you is ask yourself, what is the worst case scenario that could occur if I follow through with this? So if we're talking about a job, for example, if you choose to leave your current comfortable, though not satisfying position for something that has more upside, what's the worst that could happen if you make that transition? Maybe it's a startup or a newer company, and maybe that company won't succeed. But where will that leave you comparative to where you are today? Obviously looking for new work. On the other hand, if you stay where you are and things aren't working out and the tea leaves are indicating that you may not be able to stick it out for whatever the reason, then you're not necessarily in such a great situation either. So ask yourself, what is the worst case scenario compared to where I am today? And does the upside, the potential upside, justify the risk that you might be taking in making that switch? So obviously we have to approach change with care. I'm not suggesting that we all become mavericks and run around and change everything all the time, but I am suggesting that we be willing to consider alternatives, willing to live a little bit less risk averse, tell ourselves that that's normal and natural for us to be that way. It's okay to be that way, but ultimately if we want more for ourselves, we have to be willing to take risks, to put ourselves out there, and to try to achieve the very most that we can.